Jerry doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, but you know that he is one of the head docents at the Heard Museum, and he's also a docent at the Sun City Museum. And they're going to be running some travel. Jerry's going to be able to take people, but it's a smaller group because the house is very little. And so look for that coming out from NADA that, there's going to be a trip to the museum. And so without talking anymore, because we want to give Jerry all this time, Jerry Cowdrey is going to introduce to us Sun City.
We'll miss you during the summer.
Good afternoon. This is by far the biggest audience I've ever spoke to. So, let me get the right button here. Okay, I want to go back to 1892. There was Mr. Kaysen and Merriman from Marinette, Wisconsin, who moved here. And they bought 640 acres of land. At that time, the West was advertised on the East Coast as cheap land and fertile land. So a lot of people came out here and bought property. Another person was Mr. Davey from Michigan. He came out and he bought 640 acres also. And then in 1895, the railroad built a line from Prescott down to Phoenix. And they stopped in what now is Marinette, and they sold some land to the railroad so the railroad could put a water station in for the engine. And shortly after that, the two men from Wisconsin, and they named it Marietta, and they went back to Michigan. Mr. Davies stayed, and this was Mr. Davies. First of all, Mr. Davies started growing sugarcane, and there was a factory in Glendale that processed both sugarcane and sugar beets. And he did that up to 1914 when the sugar plant, it changed processing sugar, but it stayed open. It was processing other things. The building's still there in Glendale, but it closed in 1892, but the building's still there. And Mr. Davey, of course, the sugar plant closed, so he had no place to process his sugar cane, so he started developing land, and he had bought the gentleman's land from Wisconsin, so he had 1,280 acres that he grew sugar cane on. And then after that, he had already built a few buildings in Marinette, but he decided he was going to try and sell 10-acre lots, and they were going to be divided like this. You could plant olives, grapefruit, oranges, whatever you wanted, but that did not go over very well. And so he, in 1920, he sold his land to the Scottsdale Cotton Company, which is a subsidiary of Goodyear Tire Company. And of course, he grew cotton. He grew a long fiber cotton, but even before him, or that company and Goodyear Tire Company, the Acoma Indians, which are just west of Scottsdale, were growing a long fiber cotton. So it was already being grown here. And so before that, in 1916, Goodyear Tire bought 16,000 acres west of here. And a couple of towns you may be familiar with is Goodyear, and also the president of Goodyear at that time was Paul Litchfield. and that's where Litchfield Park came about, because they were using that area for their headquarters. And so they started, and they started growing cotton here because they were originally getting cotton from Egypt, and they were starting to have problems getting what they wanted. So both Southwest Cotton Company and Goodyear came here. And they were first using the cotton, the long fiber cotton, in military planes. And then they started using it in military trucks up until they invented a synthesized synthetic fiber for the tires. And as far as Marietta, this is a town, and let's see if I can get this. I got to get the other piece here. This area over here, number 6, was a camp for the workers, and it's now the area where Sunland Cemetery is. Now, this was a school, and they had a store and a small post office in the store. And right here was a corral, and they did all their farming with mules. And at one time, there was as many as 500 mules at that corral. This was housing. This was the cotton gin office. It later became the second post office for Marinette, and today it's Mencken Funeral Home. And across the street from that is the cotton gin. And right here, this is 103rd now. And across the street from where the funeral home is today used to be Sun Valley Lodge. It was a retirement community, and it had every area you'd want to cover. But a couple of years ago, an out-of-state company bought it, and now it's Lifestream independent living today. And number 7, Camp Hollywood, was known for it was notorious for its beautiful girls. Okay, that's pretty much Marinette. And you were right here. This would be 107th, and right here now is Fry's grocery store. Okay, and where 8 is, that was Los Budas, but it means a boot camp. It was always so wet they had to wear boots all the time. But it's also the location now. Some of you have heard of Pride, the volunteer organization here in Sun City. That's where their offices are today. This is one of the main the store at Marinetta. And the second floor was a ballroom, and they'd have dances and people on Saturdays, and people would come out from all over the area, even as far as Phoenix, come all the way out here for the dances. And, whoops, wrong way. This is another building at Marinetta, and you can see some of the tents in the back. That's where some of the workers lived. And I can't say 100%, but I think the majority of the workers were from Mexico. Okay. And they did all their farming by mules. Here's a picture here of them farming. And that's just a bale of cotton. This little creek, Davy built it. It's approximately 5 miles west of Sun City, and it's basically what was feeding the cotton fields. This is Amanda Durant. She's the only person that the museum knows that actually lived in Marietta and then lived in Sun City. And she's pointing to where she lived in Marinetta. Okay, in 1954, they built Youngtown. And it was Ben Schleifer, Francis Greer from Greer Ranch, and Elmer Jones. And it was the first retirement community in the country. And they had an age limit. And sales were okay when they first opened, but then they dropped down drastically. And they started selling to families. And that didn't make people very happy. Plus, they did not build any of the amenities they had promised. So people weren't happy living there. And Dow Webb heard about this community on Wide Wide World, an NBC documentary series back then. And it kind of perked his interest, and he thought it would be an interesting thing to investigate. So he sent a couple of his employees to Florida to talk to retired people in retirement homes and places like that. And they came back and they said, Mr. Webb, you have no idea how horrible existence these people are living. They just sit in recliners all day long and do absolutely nothing. So Dow Webb said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to show people that the amenities are here. So every place he built, Sun City he built the amenities first, except Sun City West, but it wasn't shortly after he started there, Mr. Meeker started there, that they built the R.H. Johnson facility. And then in 1930, Mr. Boswell leased land from the Goodyear Tire Company, because by that time the Goodyear Tire Company didn't want anything to do with cotton. They just wanted to make tires. And Boswell leased it up till 1940, and then he bought all the land. Mr. Boswell was one of the largest landowners in the United States at that time. He also had 60,000 acres in Australia that he grew cotton on. And so Mr. Boswell was, well, first Dow Webb said, well, we're going to do this. We got to find the land. And it just so happened R.H. Johnson was having lunch with Mr. Boswell, and Mr. Boswell told him, I'm thinking of selling some land because of the water tables going down. So Mr. Johnson went back to Dow Webb and said, I think I found somebody that we can buy the land from. And Mr. Boswell and Dow Webb got together, and Mr. Boswell said, I have 10,000 acres here, and I have 10,000 acres out west, which is now Sun City West, okay? They formed a partnership. Mr. Boswell was 49% of the company, and they called it DevCo, and Dow Webb was 51% of the company. And I'll just read this. I could speak an hour about Dow Webb, but that's not what this is about. But I'll just read. Dow Webb grew to become one of the world's largest builders of military bases, sports arenas, high-rise buildings, hotels, casinos, and more. As his reputation grew, so did his wealth and fame. He counted presidents, celebrities, athletes among his closest friends. I just put this in. This is when Boswell went to automated equipment, and the only bad thing with that, it laid so many of the workers off because they didn't need as many people out hand picking cotton. And this is Mr. Boswell and Dow Webb, okay? And that's Dow Webb. I just wrote you, I mean, I could write 10 pages about what Dow Webb accomplished in his life. And, whoops, wrong way. And they're starting to lay out the land for Sun City. And this was the first thing they started was the 9-hole golf course. This is Youngtown over here. And that was in 1959, September of 1959. And this is not far before opening. That's Marinetta down there. It's 103rd and Grand. And there's another picture of it. And this was Oakmont Rec Center. It was first called Town Hall, and then they shortly changed it to Oakmont Rec Center. It was the first rec center in Sun City, and it's right on Oakmont Drive. Now, they had a contest as what they were going to call this development, and they had hundreds of suggestions and names sent in, and it was a contest. And they had Mr. Webb walked into the office and they had these names all over the floor. And he says, I like that one. And it was Sun City. And he says, they said, well, we have several. He said, put them in a box and I'll draw one. So they drew. Mr. Britton and his wife were the first. They won a home. That was the prize for naming Sun City. But they moved in October of 1960. And they moved out in March of 1961 because they were full-time RVers. So, and this is opening day. When you came out here, January the 1st, 1960, this is what you saw. And at that time in this part of Arizona, if you wanted to go to California, you had to use Highway 60, which is Grand Avenue. They were building I-10 at that time, but it wasn't open for traffic. They had, Del Webb had the Highway House, and there were 12 rooms in that. Then he had 12 cottages where you could go out and rent by the week. And it was $75 for a week. And you could play golf, you could eat in the restaurant, and just see if you really like it. It was come and see if you really liked the plan. And if you come out in the summertime, it was $75 for 2 weeks. So it was quite a bargain. Okay, before they ever started this, two things that Del Webb's company was concerned about: would older people move where there's only older people, and would people move away from their grandchildren? Well, it turned out that neither one of them were true. And on opening day, Del Webb, he was concerned that people 55 and older would be able to get a 30-year mortgage. Well, people were coming down here and paying cash, and he just assumed everybody on retirement was on a low Social Security or fixed income. He didn't realize people would come down here and pay cash for a home. And another thing he found out, that opening day, there were many people came down here and they said, I like the concept, but I only want to be here 4 months out of the year. So that's when he started building all the duplexes and the fourplexes that you see all over Sun City and Sun City West. And like I said, him and Mr. Boswell were partners in this. And Mr. Boswell went to him and he says, you know, we're going to do this. We need a grocery store. And Mr. Webb kind of chuckled. He said, I've gone to 3 or 4. And the first question they asked me is, what's the population? Well, right now it's 0. I said, come back in a few years and we'll talk. Well, it just so happened Mr. Boswell was on the board of directors for Safeway. So opening day, you had a fully stocked Safeway store. But it's now the Amish furniture store. It was bought in 2000. And there was a fountain right there. I think I've got a picture of it. Yeah, that fountain. Opening day, January the 1st, it was frozen. So they actually postponed opening for an hour until it thawed out to where it was running. And this is opening day. His company was going to be very happy if they had 10,000 people out here. Opening day, they had a little over 100,000 people out here. And they sold 237 homes, way above their expectations. And interesting little story, I'm not sure which couple here, but at one time, one of the docents was doing a tour, and this is a picture on the wall in the museum, and this couple came in who had just bought a house, a couple doors, one of the original model homes that their grandparents had actually lived in, and they're looking at that picture, and the wife says, "Oh my gosh, there's Grammy and Grandpa." So, but you can see, and this is the house now that is the museum, and that's Oakmont Rec Center. Okay, I mentioned the highway house. Okay, I already mentioned that there was a post office, and there was a funeral home at one time, and it was in 2000 when Steiner bought the grocery store. And the grocery store closed because they felt it was way too small for the population that had grown around here, and they built a bigger one. My pages are sticking together. Okay, this is the highway house. And again, this is the museum. And this area right here is now a parking lot. There's no trees in it. And that's Oakmont. And they had a big rose garden at one time. And this was the workers at the first post office. And that's a better picture of the Safeway store. This is Fairway Rec Center. It's at Peoria and 107th. And then in 2005, they totally tore everything down. I'm sorry, yeah. And then this is today. And it took them 5 years to build that. And also, after that was built, depending on where you lived in the first phase of Sun City, you could only use what rec center you lived in. You couldn't live in Oakmont and go to Fairway. And then people complained so much, they said, well, wait a minute, we're all paying the same amount. Why can't we use both of them? So they did break that law, and you could go wherever you wanted to. And, now Webb had this for a while for the convenience of the residents. You just stand out and get on the little wagon and go to the store or wherever you wanted to go. And this was the second post office in Sun City. The third office was 1990. It's the one at 98th and Bell. And golf cars. Sun City became the city of golf cars. And at that time, you had 2 rec centers and 2 golf courses, and you could go wherever you wanted. But then the motor vehicle department got involved, and they classified these as motorcycles. So to drive one, you had to wear goggles and a helmet. And then later on, they said, you have to put glass in the windshield. You can't have plastic. And then when they started, they started having gas and electric, and they required you, if you had a gas one, you had to go in and get an emission test that cost $5. If you had an electric one, you didn't have to go in and get an emission test, but they still charged you $5. And they were, the first ones, as you can see, were 3 wheels. They were very hazardous. They were bad. Shortly, they went into 4-wheel. And this was a picture Life magazine took one time. People are laying in their lounge chairs out in the street. This was the 5th anniversary. They had a parade, and then they had a huge cake. You could see people standing there, how big it was. This was the Mount Joy motto, and it was very popular to Midwesterners because it was natural landscape and low maintenance. Okay, as you can see by this chart, around 1964, 1965, sales were almost dead. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one I read that makes sense is people had heard about the advertisement was national, and people were saying, oh, that's an old thing, I'm not going to go live where all those old people are, and had a lot of negative remarks about it. Now, along comes John Meeker. John Meeker was first met Del Webb. He was his caddy at the Phoenix Country Club, and he was still in high school. And Mr. Webb said, when you get out of high school, look me up, I got a job for you. And Mr. Meeker said, I've already enlisted in the military. He says, well, when you get through, look me up, I've got a job for you. As it says at the top, John Meeker to the rescue. John Meeker was first hired in the sales in the mailroom as a mail clerk. He eventually worked his way up to be president of DEVCO. He was a very humble man, but a very bright man. After he got started, he even suggested building homes with solar systems on them, and that didn't fly with the company. But what he did, he'd go out to wherever he would go in Sun City, and he'd take pictures of people playing golf, swimming in the rec centers. And he made boxes of those cards and gave them to all the rec centers. And the residents could come in and pick up as many boxes as they wanted. And he says, I want you to send these to all your friends and show them how much fun you're having. The other salespeople were selling, okay, you can come here and you don't have to shovel snow. They weren't pushing the amenities. Meeker turned it over to the residents to tell their friends how much fun they were having. And look what sales did. They skyrocketed because they were promoting an active life in the community. That's another one of the Christmas cards he made with people playing golf and doing things. And the change in the definition of retirement, the Sun City lifestyle, fun, fun, fun. These are some of the active retirement city, people having fun, sitting, having lunch. This guy, he's just showing you 75, and the pool in the tub is 84, so he's comfortable. And gas was 33 cents a gallon, and they had, the people built Sun City. Del Webb built the amenities, but it was the people that moved here that created all the dance clubs, the card clubs, the car club, the metal shop. Every club you have here was created by people, not Mr. Webb. And the next one, the men weren't going to be shown up. They were playing golf. These are some of the actors. Look like they're getting into the swimming pool, and they're entertaining and playing games. And I forgot to mention, it was a good point. When this to me shows me how intelligent Del Webb was. On opening day, 1960, January the 1st, To show people the amenities were here, he had professional golfers playing golf on the golf course. He had people in the Oakmont swimming pool. He had people in the Oakmont Rec Center playing cards and games. So you saw it wasn't a promise, the amenities were here. This is the Sun Bowl when it first started. And the first opening, and they had Liberace, and they had a little over 7,000 people at the stadium when they first opened. It's still here. They have shows in the wintertime. This is Mountain View Rec Center, 1967. It was the third rec center, and it's still in phase 1. And it was the first rec center with a huge auditorium. This is Central Estates. Mr. Meeker thought he would provide property for ranchers and people that had horses, and they built big barns for the horses. But from what I've been told today, there's no horses. The barns are all full of antique cars. So, the Antique Car Club. This is Sun City completed. And they were 1968, and they were thinking of going across. But as I said earlier, sales had dropped so low. They were down to like 325 homes they sold. And they thought, we can't afford to go across Grand. But thanks to Mr. Meeker, they did. And when they went across Grand, they built bigger rec centers and they built bigger homes. Okay? This was a baseball field. It was a ladies' fast pitch softball team, and it's across Grand at 111, and it's where the Fountains Apartments are today. And I tell people if they're careful and they're driving west on Grand, after you get by the two-story buildings, if you look back, there's actually apartments down below ground, the street level, that's where the stadium was where those apartments are, okay? And that's them playing. And they had a cheerleading team, but that was the creation of the Palms. And I love this poster because it's at the museum. It shows how young you stay if you're active. And it's true. Many of you know people that are in their 80s and 90s that are, I play pickleball with a guy that's 93 years old. And sometimes he beats me, and it really makes me mad. And this was a picture on the poster. I'm almost sure that none of these ladies are still here. But late, I think it was November of last year, they performed for a little while at the Sundial Center. That's Jim Boswell. And as I already told you, he was one of the largest landowners in the United States. And he went to Del Webb and he said, Mr. Webb, we are so isolated out here, we need a doctor. And they did a survey and they found a doctor, and the doctor's name was Dr. Stump. And the only problem with Dr. Stump was he had a 10-year-old son. And everyone said, no, he can't be here. So Mr. Boswell said, well, you got two choices. You can have a doctor with a 10-year-old son or no doctor. They backed off on that one. But 10 years later, Mr. Boswell again went to Webb and said, we need a hospital out here. We are so isolated. So he came up with $1.2 million for seed money to start the hospital. But he said, if we're going to build it, I got some requirements. First, it's going to be named Walter Hospital after his uncle. It's going to be on a hill so people can see it. It's going to be state-of-the-art. and it's going to be round. This was the beginning of it. This would have been 1970. And this is the finished, it's on a hill. There's actually there's been two more towers, and there's actually 4 towers. And the concept of building it round was the nurses' stations are all in the center. So no matter where you are in the hospital, the nurses can see you from their stations, okay? Okay, they had, whoops. What am I doing wrong here? Okay, they had a grand opening of that, and there were 5,000 people showed up. This is Viewpoint Lake, and Lakeview Rec Center. It was the first one built in phase 2 on the other side of Grand. And it had a lake, Viewpoint Lake, and when they dug out for the lake, that's where they got the dirt to build the hill for the hospital, okay? And let's see, that's a better view. That's Meeker Mountain. I'm sure a lot of you have probably been up there. You have to be a rec member to go up there. And you can also take little boats out, paddle boats, but they require 2 people because if you're by yourself paddling, you're just going to go around in circles. So. And Sundial, when Sundial was built, that was reported the largest sundial in the world. And also Sundial has a huge entertainment capacity also. And then this is a groundbreaking for Bell Center in 1974. Bell Center is the largest rec center in Sun City. And then in 1976, they broke ground for the big library that's there. This is still kind of unconstructed. The swimming pools and stuff aren't there, but the library is over there. It's a separate building. As you come up here from the parking lot, you'd go over there if you're going to the library, and the visitor center is over here. And okay. Got it myself. 1979, I think it was. 1976, they did they collected metal because they wanted to make a Liberty Bell. And they actually got 7,000 pounds that they melted down. And they sent them to Holland, but I want the, anyway, I can't find it. It was a city in Holland, and that's where the original Liberty Bell was cast. And this is the Liberty Bell, and it's, and this right back here is where it's located. And unlike the Liberty Bell you've all heard of, this bell, you can actually ring it. There's no protection over it. And on 4th of July every year, they have a big celebration and ring the bell. But this year, in November the 15th, it'll be 50 years since that was built, and they're going to have an opening of the capsule and all the things. Nobody knows what's in the capsule, so they may get some surprises. But and all the material that's in it will be coming to the Historical Museum and put on permanent display. So. Huh?
Where's the capsule located?
The bell?
The capsule itself. Where is it?
Oh, I go the right way here. It's right here. Right in there. Okay. And unfortunately, apparently they didn't keep any kind of record of what was put in it. So they have no idea what they're going to find. All right. And that's open November 15th. You can all go to it if you want. And that's Marinette Rec Center. It was first named Union Hills Rec Center. And when they built that last extension on phase 3 from Union Hill up to Beardsley, they weren't going to build a rec center because they told everybody you can get down and use Bell. But people complained so much that they finally built a rec center for them. And this is the country club, private club. It never opened. A worker started a fire, he was doing something, and burnt it down. But then a few months later, it was rebuilt, and it's now used by the Grand Canyon University. And I'm really not sure what role they play, why they're there, but they occupy the building today. And it's, I can show you where it is here. Anyway, and right here also, there is a full-size statue of Del Webb that was made by a man in Scottsdale, and it's bronze. I went back there for something, but I'm getting old too. So. I know. That's right across the street from Boswell Hospital, and it actually faces the lake. So it's Sun City Museum. This is out on the court at the front of the museum. And Jane Freeman and Glenn Sandberg were really founders of the Historical Museum. But if I have permission, I must also mention Ed Allen, who's with us today. He was very instrumental in starting the museum. He even helped pick out furniture that was going to be in the living room and places like that. And when they got ready to move up and start building Sun City West, they put a great big dumpster in the parking lot, and workers were carrying file cabinets full of pictures. They used to have a club here for 20 years that went to every event, and they took tons of pictures. These file cabinets were filled with pictures. And Jane ran out and said, "You can't throw these away, they're history." And the workers said, "We're paid to get rid of them." So Jane affectionately became Jane the dumpster diver. She actually would jump into the dumpsters and pull out. We have file after file of pictures of the development of Sun City because of Jane. And this was the opening in 1920 of the Historical Museum. And one of the big reasons they really wanted that building, it was one of the smallest of the model homes, but it had never been remodeled. These are some of the pictures she pulled out of the dumpsters that are on the walls in the museum. And I just want to mention the Sunshine Service. They're right here on Santa Fe Road. And you probably know, if you have, no matter what age a person you have visiting, they have things you can borrow. And all they ask is a small donation. I mean, they have walkers, wheelchairs, baby potties, folding beds, you name it. It's a very nice service. And also Pride. Remember, I told you where they're located. They're all volunteers. They're the ones that clean our streets. And it's estimated they save Sun City approximately $600,000 a year that Sun City would have to pay Maricopa County to do the same work they're doing. This little marker marks Marinette. It was in this island between the parking lot of this church and another parking lot. And this church was sold last year. And fortunately, somebody remembered where this was. And they got together with Maricopa County, and Maricopa County, by Supervisor Debbie Lesko, she helped, and she got Maricopa County to move it up to the museum for nothing. Didn't cost us a dime. And that's them moving it. There's the plaque there. And they put it right on the west side, just off the driveway on the west side. And then the museum built this information about Marinetta. And this is the museum. It was just recently repainted, and they painted it pink because we were told that the original paint was pink. And this is the paint bathroom that's in it. And this is the part of the living room. This is a TV. I'm sure all of you remember those great big TVs that would take 2 men to move. And the picture there is interesting because Ed Allen was in church, and there was a man in church that was about Del Webb's height. He was, I think, 6'4", and he kind of looked like Del Webb. So he asked him if he could take a picture of him. So he took a picture of him, and then they sent the photo out to a company that made the cardboard stand, and then put Del Webb's head on the top of it. So. And this is not furniture from the original house, but it's furniture from that era. Okay. And this is a quote from Del Webb. The most saddest thing I ever did was these Sun Cities. And he did it because he was happy because the people is what made it. Everyone got along back then. And he says, I built the amenities, but the people made Sun City. And this I put in, it's a total map of Sun City and the different phases. Now, there's 125 clubs. There's 8 rec centers. There's 11 golf courses. What other city in the world would offer that much activity? And if you're bored, I am really sorry for you. So that ends my presentation, and I hope you all learned something. Thank you. We have Mike Lindquist and Ray Larson who have microphones if you have any questions. I just wanted to mention real quick, these are 4 books about Sun City was built by Brett McKernan, and he's a great docent at the museum. Jubilee was built by Jane and Glenn and Del Webb, and then Sun City West was actually, I say he authored it, but he insists he was just an editor. Ed Allen got together with a whole bunch of people and organized the material for the book.
Is Ed Allen here with us? Please stand up, please.
Yes, he is. Fred.
Jerry, thank you for a very thorough presentation.
Well, thank you.
They had original 231 units that were sold. What did they sell for? Do you know?
Well, I don't know all of them. The first model, the smallest one, sold for $8,500. And it was $600 if you wanted air conditioning, and $1,200 if you wanted on the golf course.
And the second question, do you know why they built all of the streets in circles in Sun City?
I've been told the reason was because they could get more homes on the golf course. So by making circles instead of just straight roads.
Thank you.
Question here.
Stand up.
What are the current hours of the museum?
Right now, it's Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 12 to 3.
Thank you.
But Nada's going to put something out. I can do private tours, and I prefer doing them when the museum's closed because you're not interrupted by other people coming in. And she's going to send some notice out that and the dates and the times. And I'm trying to limit them to maybe 14 people because the museum is small, and you get any more than that, it's almost impossible to move. So, and I'll do it for, you know, if you have family coming in and you want to go to the museum, just give me a call and I'll meet you at the museum. It's only $5. Cheapest museum in the nation. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for coming and participating, and we'll see you in September. And thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Thank you.